because of some changes that are happening. Now, today I will be talking about a little bit about semantics, about how to use some of the my presentation. Let's go look to my presentation and have a look, and then we'll come back and talk more about any questions that you might have. And now, in terms of the presentation here, as you can see, this is what I have covered before, by the way, when I talked about the fact that when you are translating, you're translating language, grammar, words, style, sounds in order to get, but you are more translating meaning than these four elements, which are the grammar, words, style, and sounds. Of course, those who are new translators, they tend to be a little bit worried about grammar more and words and style and sounds more than meaning. And that's where they become, their style is very awkward and it's not very nice translation. More focused on meaning, especially if you are doing interpreting, because in interpreting you are focusing on the message more than you are focusing on just the grammar and style and sounds. Now, in the language, of course, the best thing with terms of words, which is the second point here, is to use a good thesaurus like Roget's. Roget's a very good thesaurus to use. It's available whether it's online or actually printed format for you. The vocabulary, which is one of the most important elements that needs to be in the mind of the translator and the interpreter indeed, is the words, what's called lexis. Lexis is the plural of lexeme. Lexeme is a singular from Greek. Now here, when you are looking at some of the words, you need to look at synonymy. Synonymy means more than one word. For example, the word car and vehicle, sayyara, bus, hafila, and so on. So you are looking more of synonyms that can help you in translating. And they can be two synonyms or more than that. They have to have the same meaning, of course, as we have just mentioned about synonymy. Now, when we move on to in synonymy, we find it does mean actually two or more words that have the same meaning. And that is what synonymy is about. Now, of course, words like able and capable, talented, skilled, these are all under one, which comes in the dictionary for a masterful, practiced expert. So you see, these synonyms do help with your translation as well. Here's another example of synonyms, like, for example, the word abode. If you come across it, then it will be residence, home, living quarters, habitation, habitat, even dwelling, domicile, lodging, and roof over one's head, pad and digs, and nest. All of these are synonyms. Of course, they differ in the usage from one to the other, depending on the genre and depending on the register. The informal style, formal style, conversational style, and so on. So word find, you will find, for example, the word for animals. When they are talking about abode, it's a different thing, because that means they are looking at a sty, or burrow, or warren, or hutch, or lair, or den. So you see, it depends on how they are used in different contexts. These are to do with the words. Also, again, for birds, it will be nest, roost, airy, aviary, and coat. And all of these are relating to synonyms. Then we move on from that and look at the what's called polysemy and monosemy. Polysemy means many words, and monosemy means one meaning. It has only one single meaning to it. And here, as you can see from Ghazala Professor Ghazala has actually mentioned that polysemy is a word that has more than one meaning, and it is in contrast to monosemy, which describes a word with a single meaning only. For example, stage is a polysemous word among whose main meanings are steps, perhaps, or a platform in the theater. And on the other hand, for example, there are words like telephone and sleep, which have got only one single meaning, whether it's yanam or nom, and hatif as well. So you see, these words are also these words, of course, the last two words, which are hatif and sleep. These two are the ones that have got only one meaning. So really, I mean, many of the students that I come across, or many of the translators even, who are translating, they get to choose only the primary meaning of a word. And the primary meaning of the word is not usually the only meaning that you need to focus upon. I mean, as in the case of the word step, for example, you can talk about it as a step, as khutwa, and a step, or something like a daraja, mind your step. For example, انتبه إلى خطوتك، انتبه إلى الدرجة التي هي عند الباب مثلا, if somebody is going up the steps or down the steps. But then the word step can mean also phase, and it means a certain stage, if you like, in the life of someone. This is a step forward, like, for example, خطوة نحو الأمام. So you see, I mean, it does actually vary in terms of meaning. Also, the word stage can also mean the actual stage of a وعليكم السلام أهلا نوات, محمد نوات. نصيحة في لإتقان الترجمة, يقول عن يسأل عن النصيحة في لإتقان الترجمة مثلك. طبعا هذا بالنسبة لأخ محمد نوات, وبتأمل إنه يكون يعني لفظت اسمك بشكل صحيح. الحقيقة إنه كيف تتمكن من أن تترجم بشكل جيد وواثق من نفسك, when you are trying to be confident in yourself, when you are translating, this is something that goes by experience, really, that comes with experience. And that's one of the problems, that many new translators, they have this lack of experience, and that's why they tend to be a little bit not confident in their translation. For example, if somebody has actually asked me to translate this text, which is not that difficult to text, but it's actually related to linguistics and semantics, so it can be also problematic. For example, polysemy تعدد المعنى هي كلمة لها أكثر من معنى, معنى واحد, فهي لو يمكن مقارنتها بكلمة مونسمي, واللي هي أحادية المعنى, التي تصف كلمة بمعنى واحد فقط وحيد لها. فعلى سبيل المثال كلمة stage باللغة الإنجليزية هي كلمة متعددة المعاني. أوكي؟ ومن بين هذه المعاني الرئيسية رقم 1 خطوة, ورقم 2 خطوة ممكن تكون مرحلة وطور, وممكن تكون أيضا منصة على خشبة المسرح أو خشبة المسرح. ومن جهة أخرى, من جهة ومن جهة أخرى, هذا من جهة, نقول هذا من جهة, ومن جهة أخرى عشان نعطي نوع من التوازن في الترجمة. يعني كلمة on the other hand طبعا معناتها on the first hand, there is a first hand, I am studying Arabic studies and I have the intent to continue studying translation. And why not? Why not يا محمد؟ هذا محمد بعت لي رسالة بيقول I am studying Arabic studies, I have the intention to continue studying translation. ولم لا? Why not? You can do that. لكن لازم ننتبه, we have to be careful when he says on the other hand. It didn't say on the first hand here. Look at this. I mean, this is extremely important. Even though it didn't say on the first hand, on the other hand, we have to give that kind of juxtaposition or between the two, on the one hand, on the other hand, and that is quite important. So ومن جهة أخرى أو من ناحية أخرى فإن كلمة تليفون وكلمة sleep لهما، شوف إذا لاحظوا إنه حطينا بالعربي لهما مثنى. ليه؟ لأن عندنا كلمتين تليفون وسليب، وهما كلمتين مزدوجتين، يعني فيها الثنائي. المشكلة أنه لا يوجد في اللغة الإنجليزية الثنائي، لذلك لكن يجب أن نقول لهما have. لهما معنى واحد، أو لكل منهما معنى واحد فقط وليس أكثر من معنى. طبعا المترجمين الجدد لا ينتبهوا إلى هذه النقطة في حال إذا الكلمة لها أكثر من معنى. أما إذا كان لها معنى واحد فلا ضير في ذلك، يعني لا مشكلة في ذلك. There's no problem if it's one meaning. And then ينام أو نوم respectively على التوالي، وبالتالي فهما أحاديتا المعنى. We move on to words and lexis, and look at this. We have covered synonymy, which means مرادفات, polysemy, which is كلمة لها أكثر من معنى، يعني متعددة المعاني. polysemy, one word that has more than one meaning. أيوة. وننتقل بعدها إلى الجانب الآخر، فهو مثلا transitive verb. transitive verb، هذه كلمة transitive verb، يعني to fix مثلا، for example, to fix or ask as free or of payment, charges £50 or dollars for an official visit. Charges for an official visit. You ask. So here we are talking about when you are looking at a verb that is transitive. Transitive لا يأخذ في منهم يأخذ متعدي ومنهم لا يأخذ متعدي، يعني حسب ما بيأخذ مفعول به، وأفعال باللغة الإنجليزية تأخذ مفعول به. To ask payment of a person or charge and a client for expenses. So you see that is a verb, which is the verb charge. Charge a client, charge him £5. So you've got two adjectives. You can charge him £5 for expenses. So you see, it is the word charge is quite really. You can always mention that the word record is different when you are recording an item. This is another verb. You need to also. He's being charged for a new sofa, for example. The verb charge. You can see that the word charge also can. He charges his estate. Charge his estate with debts incurred. This is quite a financial kind of expression. To impose a financial burden on. This is charge again. So you see, charge can change its meaning from one place to another, and from one context to another. We have to be very careful when you are imposing. Look at this: to impose or record as a financial obligation, charges debts to an estate, or charge his estate with debts incurred. So the word charge here changes its meaning. Thank you very much, Muhammad Abdullah, saying that I've been away for some time. This is his message, and his message is saying that he's actually, he says it's a long time, no see. We hope that you're doing well. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, let me just go back to change the, and then to, thank you very much, Muhammad Abdullah. I have been away for a bit because there was exams, as you know, and I've been busy with some examination of some students in the master's program for a while, and that's why that was one of the reasons that I haven't been on live. But what I am trying to say here today is that I am trying to say to all those who are translating that please, 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 when you look at the word in a sentence and it doesn't make, if you know one meaning of that word, but you don't know all the meanings of the word, and you look at it and it sounds strange with the primary meaning, its primary meaning, then that is a really problem. As in the case of the word charge, okay? Charge can have actually more than one meaning. Fun fact, the verb set has 430 meanings to the word set. Well, I don't know whether it has got that many meanings to the word set. I know when you talk about TV set, جهاز التلفزيون, and I am setting my watch, which means I am getting my watch to be accurate to or set it to a certain time that it will sound the alarm. فإذا هون يكون معناها تضبط الوقت بدل ما جهاز التلفزيون. And أيضا we are set, يعني نحن قد جهزنا أنفسنا. هاي كلمة set أيضا كلمة, this with the word set has got also various meanings to it. And of course there's the sunset, which is غروب الشمس, and that is a completely different meaning. So it's really this is a set, يعني هذه مجموعة من مجموعة أشياء مثلا. It's a set, يعني مجموعة منظمة من الأشياء. You are absolutely right, يعني Muhammad, that it is actually one of those important videos of the legal. Zach wants more videos about legal translation. And inshallah, I will try to get more legal translations for you. I mean, the legal really not really problematic as much. Once you know some of the terminology used into the two systems, the English system, depending which English you're talking about, which is British system, Scottish law, let's say system, or Wales, or England, or Scotland. So it depends on which law you're talking about. You need to understand it well. Even if it's Australian law, then you have to understand that one and know what kind of terminology they use there. So really, Zach, this is what you need to be understanding how the law is using certain terminology in one language. Then you have to go to the other language, which is also the target language, and see what kind of legal system there is there, how it is set up. A very simple example will be, like, for example, the difference between lawyer and solicitor. And then somebody who is on bar, they say bar, which means that he goes to court. And there is attorney general, which is an American expression. So you see, these are relating to also, you need to know the types of courts here, and which type of court and what do they do. So it's a lot of reading needs to be done by the person who is doing legal translation or legal interpreting as well. It's the same thing. So you need to really be more aware of the two systems. That's the first thing. So you need to read more about the two systems, how they work. And also, you need to know the terminology, because terminology in the legal Zach, is really important to understand what it means. When they say bonds, what does this term mean? Bonds and sovereign bonds, for example, سندات سيادية. Okay, so here you need to know what the central bank does. What does the central bank do, for example? Especially if it's something to do, I mean, the legal and here about the legal and financial link between the two. The two disciplines are coming in together. This is what you need to learn about that. That is one of the issues here. There's also the other problem is that if it is not, even if it's political translation is linked also to the same to legal, because they are based, all politicians, they do rely on legal, on the law, whether it's international law or the local law, and depends on what the discussion is going on about a certain topic in politics. But in politics, mostly when you are dealing with international nations, the international relations, here you're talking about politics and law at the same time, because they work hand in hand. So you need to understand a little bit about politics. You need to also understand a little more about the international law, and also the organizations. You need to know more about that. So that is sort of the legal translation. Because Zach has actually distracted me now from what I'm saying about the words and polysemy. But in fact, in the legal translation, this is something you need to know, is that once you do one or two or three, let's say, contracts, then you become familiar of how contracts are done, are translated. Once you translate the first contract, the second will be easier, because it's the same format. It's a formulaic. The legal text is formulaic. In other words, it follows a certain formula. So once you know that formula, that's it. You're done. You become confident. Read a lot about. There are many books in legal for you, Zach. One of them will be Mahmoud Sabra, for example. He's got a very good book on that in Arabic. It's written. There are other books that are written by Farahati, for example. There's that book, which was published in 2015-16, and also was translated by a colleague of mine, Al-Wazna, Professor Al-Wazna. He translated that book into Arabic, and he mentioned, because he specialized in the legal system in KSA in the main. So you see, this is for the legal. Legal is requiring first to do all these forms. Once you know them, that they are put in a certain, because organizations usually have their forms to fill in. You fill in the form, and that's it. For example, clearance form. Clearance forms, يعني براءة ذمة. Okay. So this is when end of service form, نهاية خدمة, for example. So these are all legal terms which you need to be familiar with. Once you are familiar with, I don't think you should have a problem with that, Zach. So I'm just going to go back now to my presentation, because I went away from it for a bit, but that is because we are talking about this legal one. It is quite, to start with, it's a bit more challenging. Now we've seen the word charge, and it is a transitive verb, to charge, but it can be intransitive as well. This is charging into the room, for example. Intransitive, it doesn't take any object. The verb does not take any object. He came, for example, you can just say, he came charging into the room. Also, you can say to charge an opponent in sports. So you see here, there is no object. Sometimes there is object, as in charge an opponent in sports. When you are charging an opponent, you are heading towards them. You are trying to assault them in sports. And that is really what an intransitive verb would be, a transitive verb, taking an object or not taking an object. I just go back to my presentation to show you, so you can follow up what I'm talking about here. And here you can see, as you can see here, is the way it is presented here for you. I'm just making it like this picture, because it's difficult to make it straight, and then you won't be able to read it. So you see here, for example, do you charge for this service? Do you charge for this service? هل هناك أجرة على هذه الخدمة مثلا? Okay, to ask or set a price. Here's the word set a price. Set, as you said earlier, one of the ones who are following me talked about the word set a price. يعني يثبت أو يثمن أو يعطي ثمنا لقطعة يبيعها مثلا. do you charge for this service؟ هل يعني تضع أجرة على هذه الخدمة مثلا، أو هناك أجر على هذه الخدمة. to charge an opponent in sports يعني تهاجم الخصم في الرياضة عادة. sports يعني في مختلف أنواع الرياضات. okay. he came charging into the room يعني دخل أو اقتحم الغرفة بسرعة، يعني اختلفت المعنى. يعني هذه بالنسبة للintransitive. لكن if we go back to this transitive, because I think we need to focus here. charges $50 for an office visit، يعني إذن يكلف أو يطالب بأجرة قدرها $50 لزيارة المكتب. أو charge a client for expenses، يعني يترتب عليه بعض الأتعاب على الوكيل معه بعض النفقات. okay. فأنا charged a new to record، charge a new sofa، يعني سجل السوفا أو المجلس الجديد كلفته أو وضعها كدين عليه. charge a new sofa، I'm going to charge you a new sofa، يعني سوف أكلفك بشراء مرتبة جديدة. وهنا charge his estate with debts incurred، إذن charge his estate بمعنى يضع عبئا ماليا على عزبته مع الديون التي ترتبت عليها، يعني كلمة debts incurred. وهنا أيضا كلمة charge debts to an estate بمعنى يضع الديون على تلك العزبة أو على العزبة. لاحظوا يعني كلمة charge يعني هي problematic of first class. وهنا مثلا كلمة charge now pay later، يعني إذن احسب لي التكلفة وسأدفعها لاحقا، احسب التكلفة وندفعها لك لاحقا. وأيضا charge ممكن أن تأتي بمعنى شحن البطارية، بطارية التليفون مثلا. يعني لاحظوا إذن الكلمة the words intransitive here he left the phone charging overnight، ترك الهاتف يشحن أثناء الليل overnight. يعني طبعا مو بين عشية وضحاها، لأن إلى معنى عشية وضحاها، لكن هنا ليست بهذا المعنى. فإذا يعني نلاحظ we see how the word is changing depending on how it is done. Then we move on after polysemy and synonymy to antonymy, which is هي المضاد، يعني كلمة مضادة لكلمة أخرى. فمثلا good وباد، مثلا هو he is not good، فيك الترجمة هو ليس صالحا أو ليس صالحا. ولكن ممكن أن تقول هو سيء، يعني ممكن أن تترجمها بطريقتين، بطريقة أنه غير صالح أو سيء. أو مثلا نقول ليس سيئا فهو صالح مثلا. وبارد وساخن هي كلمتين متناقضتين متضادتين. بارد وساخن، بارد العواطف ممكن يكون، وساخن المشاعر. نلاحظ أن مثلا كلمة able اللي من يعني مثلا بالكتاب هذا بالثيسورس بيقول عنها معناها capable and so on، وشفناهم الكلمات الأخرى مرادفات. لكن أنت means antonymy يعني المضاد، ومعناها مثلا able عكسها incompetent غير كفء، ineffectual غير مؤثر، weak ضعيف، unskilled غير ماهر، unable عاجز. يعني طبعا كلمة unable غير قادر ممكن نقول عنها عاجز. يعني خلينا نكون في شوية flexibility أو في شوية مرونة في ترجمتنا لهذه الكلمات. يعني أنا I think what I have done here today is I have given you a good way of looking at the words, how the words and how you can look and find words that has got more than one meaning, or it could have only one meaning, like the word run, runny nose, and then a dry run. It's a different word. Dry run is different. Dry run means prova, dry run. Whereas, for example, run a business مثلا. يعني كل هذه الكلمات لها معاني مختلفة. You have to go for the primary meaning, and you can go for the secondary meanings, and that you can find in Roget's dictionary, which is a very useful one because it's a thesaurus, gives you all the equivalences, gives you all the different, now I wouldn't say equivalents, I would say synonyms, which are close to each other in meaning, and meaning can be, some words have got many meanings, as in the case of the charge, and we've seen how charge is, and one of the people who are following me has actually mentioned something about this. Talal Al-Guthami يقول, great. Thank you, Talal. I really appreciate that. Is very nice of you. But I'm trying to sort of give you an idea. يعني كلمة set كيف أنه ترجمناها بعدة طرق. كلمة charge أيضا ترجمناها بعدة طرق. و how can I practice with assurance? How can I practice translation with assurance? I don't think you want to say with assurance. You want to with confidence. I think that's what you want to say. How do you practice with confidence? Well, يا محمد نوات كيف تترجمها أو تكون واثق من نفسك؟ هذه تحتاج إلى خبرة في الدرجة الأولى وقراءة. You need to read a lot. You need to have a good knowledge. A good translator is a translator who's got plenty of knowledge in their heads that they can actually. العلم في الصدور لا في السطور. طبعا يعني في الصدور ليست, doesn't mean the chest, it means the head here. But of course يعني you keep it by heart, and that's what it means. يعني لازم نعرف الأمور من القراءة. You read more, you'll have more vocabulary, you have more knowledge, and therefore you will be also be more confident. How type of books? What type of books that you need to read? Well, I mean, you can read any books. It doesn't really matter in which area. Yani, you have to. I remember when I used to do at one time when I was translating some of the questions in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Of course, I was actually at that time I was checking them. I wasn't the writer of these questions because there were 14 writers. I was always read in different areas. I read in poetry, literature. I read in politics, in sports, in literature, in religion. It doesn't really matter. I mean, in legal, you read stories, novels, you read newspapers, you watch the TV, you watch radio, you look at the platforms, online platforms, you read them as well. Any reading will be useful. That's what I'm trying to say. The more you read, the better is your style in writing. And writing in both languages. You see, the thing is that you have to be good writer in both languages. You have to be more confident. Good grammar in Arabic language. I always go and ask Arabic teachers to help me with the grammar. I use also معجم الوسيط to help me with grammar as well, because I can say فرح يفرح, حرص يحرص, ولا يحرص. هي طبعا الطرفين في القراءة. هذه if you are translating for dubbing. If you translate for dubbing, you have to know how to read الأفعال الثلاثية وتحريكها, كيف تحركها. يعني حرص يحرص, كرم يكرم. You have to check them in there. So this is really one of these things that you need to be aware of, and you need to be confident in both languages, in Arabic and English. Read in Arabic, read in English. Any books, not necessarily books, newspapers, news, politics, sports, even sports. When I was doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, So there were so many expressions in sports which I've learned, like hat trick, for example. When he has a hat trick, it means he scored 3 times. The same goalkeeper has scored 3 times. This is really, really very important. You're most welcome, Muhammad Nawayat. You are thanking me for this, and I hope that everybody has learned something today from this particular session about words and their meanings, and they have got many meanings. Sometimes you might have to use the mudaddat, the antonyms in your style, which is sometimes it's fine to do that as a kind of a style because you're taking it from a different angle. He is not good or he's bad. He is not bad, he's good. Both are more or less similar. So I don't think you should worry too much about, but you need to make sure that all the time meaning is being conveyed and the message is put across well. If there are no questions to ask, I will stop here and I will meet you hopefully next Saturday at the same time, where I will be talking more about translating episode 6. Okay, I'll wait for a few seconds and see if you have any questions. If not, then we'll just go and say goodbye to you and wish you all the best. Okay? I don't seem to have any queries and any examples. I hope that I've answered all your queries and examples, and I wish you all the best. Have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Muhammad Nawat. May God bless you too. May Allah bless you too. Have a nice day. Najwa, thank you very much for this episode. You gave us a lot to think about. Well, that's what I'm here for. I want to make sure, I think from now on, every time I am in, before I leave, any of you who would like to have any issues to discuss or think about. Now, what is important is to look at the primary meaning of the word. It might have a secondary meaning. If you are in doubt, check the word. Go to Roget's, to Thesaurus to help you with these, whether it's antonyms or synonyms, whether they're polysemous or monosymy or monosemous, these words. Have a nice day. You take care.